I never thought I'd end up in the hospital because of a chicken sandwich. But there I was, day 3 of what felt like the worst stomach flu of my life, being wheeled into the emergency room with a 103-degree fever, severe dehydration, and pain that made childbirth seem like a walk in the park. The doctor's words still echo in my head. "You've got a severe case of salmonella poisoning." That chicken sandwich. It nearly cost me my life. And the worst part, it was completely preventable. My name's Sarah. I'm 68 years old, and this is the story of how I survived a salmonella nightmare. And what I learned that might just save your life too. Let me take you back to that fateful summer weekend. My grandkids were visiting, and I wanted to make their favorite lunch chicken sandwiches with all the fixings. I'd made them 100 times before without any issues. I remember being in a rush that day, multitasking between entertaining the kids and preparing lunch. Looking back, I can pinpoint exactly where things went wrong. I was cutting vegetables on the same cutting board I just used for the raw chicken. I rinsed the chicken in the sink, splashing water everywhere. And when my grandson asked me to help with something, I rushed to assist him without washing my hands first. These might seem like small shortcuts, but they set the stage for what would become the most terrifying health crisis of my life. The symptoms started about 12 hours later. At first, I thought it was just a mild upset stomach. By morning, I was experiencing severe abdominal cramps, diarrhea, and vomiting. I told myself it was just a 24-hour bug. After all, I've been cooking for over 50 years. Surely I couldn't have given myself food poisoning. But by the second day, I couldn't keep even water down. My husband noticed I was becoming confused, and my skin felt hot to the touch. When I couldn't even stand up to walk to the bathroom, he called an ambulance. The next few days in the hospital are still a blur. The doctors immediately put me on IV fluids to combat the severe dehydration. They ran tests and confirmed what they suspected: salmonella poisoning. The bacteria had entered my bloodstream, causing what they called bacteremia, a potentially life-threatening condition, especially for someone my age. What shocked me most was learning how common salmonella is. The doctor told me the CDC estimates salmonella causes about 1.35 million infections, 26,500 hospitalizations, and 420 deaths in the United States every year. And older adults like me, we're at much higher risk for severe illness. I spent 5 days in the hospital. The antibiotics made me nauseous, but they were fighting the infection. The worst part wasn't the physical symptoms, though they were brutal. It was the realization that I had likely made my grandkids sick too. My daughter called from home to tell me both children had developed milder symptoms. Thankfully, they recovered quickly, but the guilt, that stayed with me long after my physical recovery. During my recovery, I became determined to understand what had happened to me. I spent hours researching salmonella while I regained my strength. Here's what I learned. Salmonella is a bacteria that commonly lives in the intestines of animals and humans. It's often found in raw meat, poultry, eggs, and unpasteurized milk. What makes it so dangerous is that you can't see, smell, or taste it. A piece of chicken contaminated with salmonella looks and smells perfectly normal. The bacteria can survive on surfaces for up to 32 hours. That means the cutting board I used, the kitchen counter, my hands, the sink, all could have harbored the bacteria, creating multiple opportunities for cross-contamination. For healthy adults, salmonella usually causes symptoms that resolve within a week without treatment. But for seniors like me, young children like my grandkids, pregnant women, and people with weakened immune systems, it can be much more serious. Even deadly. What really hit home was learning that just 15-20 Salmonella bacteria can be enough to cause an infection. To put that in perspective, that's an amount so small you couldn't possibly see it with the naked eye. After I recovered enough to return home, I asked a food safety expert to come observe me in the kitchen. I wanted to identify every mistake I had made. It was humbling, to say the least. The expert pointed out several critical errors in my food handling routine. First, I was rinsing raw chicken in the sink, something I'd done my entire life, because that's what my mother taught me. Turns out, this actually spreads bacteria through water splashes, contaminating countertops, dishes, and other foods nearby. The CDC specifically recommends against rinsing poultry. Second, I wasn't using separate cutting boards for raw meat and vegetables. The tiny grooves in cutting boards can harbor bacteria, making cross-contamination almost inevitable when you use the same board. Third, I wasn't washing my hands properly or often enough. A quick rinse under water isn't sufficient. You need 20 seconds with soap, scrubbing between fingers and under nails. Fourth, I wasn't using a food thermometer. I was judging doneness by appearance, which isn't reliable. Chicken needs to reach 165 degrees F throughout to kill salmonella. Finally, I was leaving food out too long. The danger zone for bacterial growth is between 40 degrees F and 140 degrees F. I had a habit of letting dishes sit out during long family meals, creating the perfect environment for bacteria to multiply. The physical recovery from salmonella was difficult, but honestly, the emotional impact hit me even harder. For weeks after returning home, I was afraid to cook for anyone. Me, the grandmother who had always expressed love through food, suddenly terrified of poisoning my family again. I experienced what I can only describe as kitchen anxiety. My hands would shake when handling raw meat. I'd double and triple check everything. I'd wake up in the night worried I'd left something out or forgotten to clean a surface properly. What bothered me most was the loss of confidence. Cooking had always been something I took pride in, something that brought me joy. Now it felt dangerous, fraught with invisible threats. I'm sharing this because I know I'm not alone. Food safety isn't just about physical health. It affects our emotional well-being too, especially for those of us who connect cooking with care and love for our families. It took time, education, and deliberately rebuilding my kitchen habits to overcome this fear. And that's what I want to share with you next. The practical steps that helped me reclaim my kitchen confidence while ensuring I never put my family at risk again. After my experience, I completely revamped my kitchen routines. These aren't complicated changes, but they've made all the difference in keeping my family safe while allowing me to enjoy cooking again. First, I invested in color-coded cutting boards, red for raw meat, green for vegetables, blue for cooked foods. This simple system eliminates cross-contamination risks. Second, I placed hand-washing reminders around my kitchen. It might sound silly, but these visual cues help me remember to wash my hands thoroughly before and after handling different ingredients, especially raw meat. Third, I bought 2 good-quality food thermometers and learned how to use them properly. One stays in the kitchen, and I keep a backup in the drawer. No more guessing if food is cooked properly. Fourth, I reorganized my refrigerator with food safety in mind. Raw meat always goes on the bottom shelf in sealed containers, so it can't drip onto other foods. Ready-to-eat foods stay on the top shelves. Fifth, I started using a kitchen timer for everything, not just cooking times, but also how long food has been sitting out. Once food has been at room temperature for 2 hours, it goes into the refrigerator or gets discarded. Sixth, and this was perhaps the most important change, I slowed down. I realized that many of my mistakes happened when I was rushing or multitasking. Now I give food preparation my full attention. If I need to help with something else, I take the time to wash my hands before and after. These changes weren't just about preventing another bout of salmonella. They were about rebuilding my confidence and reclaiming the joy of cooking for my family. One thing that became clear during my recovery was that food safety becomes even more critical as we age. Our immune systems naturally weaken over time, making us more vulnerable to foodborne illnesses and their complications. My doctor explained that the changes in our digestive systems as we age also play a role. We produce less stomach acid, which is one of our body's natural defenses against harmful bacteria. Our intestines slow down, giving bacteria more time to multiply. And many of us take medications that might further compromise our immune systems. For seniors living alone, there are additional challenges. It can be harder to tell if food has spoiled when our senses of smell and taste diminish. Leftovers might stay in the refrigerator too long. And cooking for one often means using partial packages of ingredients, creating more opportunities for contamination if not stored properly. I've learned to be particularly cautious with certain high-risk foods. I no longer eat runny eggs. They're always cooked until both white and yolk are firm. I avoid rare or medium-rare meat. I've said goodbye to raw sprouts on my sandwiches and unpasteurized juices or milk products. These might seem like small sacrifices, but they've significantly reduced my risk of another foodborne illness. And at my age, that's a trade-off I'm more than willing to make. After my recovery, I made a decision. My experience wouldn't be in vain. I started sharing my story with friends, family, and eventually my entire community. What surprised me was how many people had either experienced foodborne illness themselves or knew someone who had, yet so few had changed their kitchen habits as a result. I began hosting what I jokingly called safe cooking classes for friends in my neighborhood. Many of them were fellow seniors who, like me, had been cooking for decades using methods passed down from their mothers' and grandmothers' methods that weren't always aligned with modern food safety guidelines. At my church's monthly potluck, I gave a short presentation about food safety for community gatherings. I emphasized the importance of keeping hot foods hot and cold foods cold, especially when dishes might sit out for hours during these events. I even convinced my grandchildren's school to let me visit and talk to the children about basic food safety, teaching them the importance of hand washing and how to tell if foods need refrigeration. What I found most rewarding is how receptive people are when the message comes from someone who's lived through the consequences. I'm not some faceless government agency telling them what to do. I'm Sarah from down the street who ended up in the hospital because of a chicken sandwich. And here's what I tell everyone: food safety isn't about fear. It's about simple habits that protect the people we love. Before I wrap up, I want to share what I wish I'd known when my symptoms first started. Recognizing the signs of salmonella and knowing when to seek medical help could literally save your life, especially if you're in a high-risk group like I am. The typical symptoms of salmonella infection include diarrhea, stomach cramps, and fever, usually beginning 6 hours to 6 days after infection. Most people recover without specific treatment in 4 to 7 days. But If you're over 65, under 5, pregnant, or have a weakened immune system, don't wait to see if it resolves on its own. Call your doctor immediately if you experience diarrhea and a fever higher than 102 degrees F, diarrhea for more than 3 days that isn't improving, bloody stools, prolonged vomiting that prevents keeping liquids down, signs of dehydration, like dry mouth, little or no urination, and dizziness when standing up. My mistake was thinking I could tough it out. By the time my husband called the ambulance, I was severely dehydrated and the infection had entered my bloodstream. Hours matter when you're dealing with something like Salmonella. And something else I've learned: keep track of what you've eaten recently. If you do end up with food poisoning, this information can help doctors identify the source and might even prevent others from getting sick if there's a contaminated product that needs to be recalled. I want to end on a positive note. After my experience, some people might have expected me to become paranoid about food, maybe even give up cooking altogether. But that's not what happened. Instead, I found a balance. I'm more careful, yes, but I haven't let fear take over my kitchen. I still cook for my family. I still try new recipes. I still find joy in sharing meals with the people I love. The difference is that now I understand the risks and have simple systems in place to manage them. Food safety has become second nature, just part of my cooking process, not an anxious afterthought. In many ways, I'm enjoying cooking more than ever because I have confidence in the safety of what I'm serving. There's peace of mind in knowing I'm protecting my family while nurturing them. And that's what I want for you too. Not fear, but awareness. Not paranoia, but practical habits. Not giving up the foods you love, but preparing them in ways that keep you and your loved ones safe. Because food should bring us together, nourish our bodies, and feed our souls. Not send us to the hospital. So here we are, nearly 2 years after my Salmonella nightmare, and I'm grateful every day for the second chance I received. What happened to me was terrifying, painful, and completely preventable. But it also taught me lessons I might never have learned otherwise. If you take anything away from my story, let it be this: food safety isn't complicated, but it is crucial, especially as we age. Simple habits like proper hand washing, preventing cross-contamination, cooking to the right temperature, and storing food correctly can make all the difference. I hope sharing my experience helps someone avoid going through what I did. Maybe it's you watching this video, or maybe it's someone you care about who needs to hear this message. If you found this information helpful, please share it with others who might benefit, especially the seniors in your life. Food safety becomes more important as we age, yet it's something many of us never formally learn. And remember, it's never too late to change habits, even ones you've had for decades. Trust me, I know. If this 68-year-old grandmother can completely transform her kitchen routines after 50 years of cooking, anyone can. Stay safe, stay healthy, and enjoy your food without the fear. Thanks for listening to my story.